what's good, listeners? Welcome to the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Bunker Edition. Good morning, Marissa. How's it going, fam?
It's going fabulous. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I know I was running into the studio this morning because it's starting to get a little drizzle coming down here in Southern California. So, I mean, we definitely got a little bit of the wet hair, but we are beyond stoked because we got a great show. But before I begin, we always like to do this at the top of the mark because on this day in 2013, Nipsey Hussle dropped his 8th mixtape, Crenshaw, which is super iconic in the SoCal area, so I know we'll all be jamming that today. And also on this day in 1988, believe it or not, but Def Leppard's ballad Love Bites hits #1 on the Hot 100 charts. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I haven't heard that song in forever. But we got a great show for everybody that's tuning into the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Bunker Edition, because our guest on Just Talking is Cameron Sorsby, returning to the show. He is the CEO of Praxis, which is an all-college alternative that leads to a full-time job. And also, don't forget to check out our brand new podcast series, Off the Fret, more music talk. All right, Marissa, it's time to rock and roll. All right, this is hashtag TLDR, Too Long Don't Read. Marissa and I, we did all the reading for you, so you didn't have to do it. In an article from Time titled, Facebook's Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Week and What It Means for Antitrust Reform by Abby Vasilis. So Facebook's week was off to a terrible start even before its former data scientist Frances Hogan testified in front of senators on Tuesday that the network's algorithms amplified social divisions and led teenagers to content glorifying eating disorders. So on Monday, an update to the routers that coordinate traffic to Facebook's data centers went astray, bringing a substantial segment of the world's social media landscape to a grinding halt for more than 5 hours and renewing calls for a federal antitrust reforms that could dismantle the ever-growing tech giant. And the outages, in tandem with Hogan's testimony and appearance on 60 Minutes on Sunday, have brought fresh urgency from a bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers to update the country's laws governing monopolies to better regulate or even break up the company. But do we really want Congress to get involved with the obvious? I mean, social media will forever be toxic. Get over it. I mean, ladies, your man will always be liking a woman's photo more beautiful than you. And guys, Instagram will forever turn men into jealous, insecure weasels spying on everyone from lovers to crushes within a few phone taps away. And for the Yankee Doodles tuning in, and yeah, I'm talking to you, baby boomers, we don't need to be reminded of your political party allegiance every single day. I don't want to hear it, okay? And as more people do start leaving big networks like Facebook, what will they do next? I mean, have they become so exhausted from the toxicity that they'll quit social media completely? Or will they turn to an alternative networks? And if so, what will millennials look for? I guess only time will tell, but where's Tom from MySpace when you need him?
Millennials are trendsetters, some good, some bad. And in an article from Independent titled, It's Not a Groupon Situation, How Baby Botox Became the Norm by Jessica Schaefer. When Botox first came out in the early 2000s, doctors would heavily saturate the muscles, leaving the face frozen. Now, millennials are the ones who found the middle ground between aging gracefully and roboto face. Celebrities like Jamie Lee Curtis are speaking out against plastic surgery, saying, the current trend of fillers and procedures and this obsession with filtering and the things that we do to adjust our appearance on Zoom are wiping out generations of beauty. So, Chris, as someone who spends a ton of money on skincare products, I can personally attest to the fact that baby Botox is the best thing I have ever tried. ever.
You're
So
right.
are you ready for your facial makeover soon? I see
Wait.
some little
Oh,
wrinkles coming in there.
what are you saying? What does that even mean? I mean, I have no. If you want to do whatever to your body, that's your choice, right? But I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis also said it's like giving a chainsaw to a toddler. So I mean, the thing is that people need to realize, and I'm sure you can fend this with me as well. Like once you mess with your face, you can't get it back. I mean, that's all I'm going to say about this. I mean, there are
Look at
beautiful
Mickey
women.
Rourke. Mickey Rourke was so hot. I mean, granted, he did do boxing, so like he actually had to have some
But
done.
now he looks like he
but
actually is permanently punched in the face
it
forever.
was not a good look. And
Or Jonah
let me
Rivers.
tell you.
I mean,
Well,
come on.
reason why I started getting it, FYI. So I have like what's called a Neanderthal brow. So my whole family, we have this like crazy brow, and we have like an angry line right here. So I was in my early 30s. I was like, man, do I look so angry every single day? Even when I'm happy, I look like I'm scowling. So I was like,
But
Doc,
Marissa, from
go
a
ahead.
female's perspective, it used to be like get the tit job. Now it's get the lip filler. Why do women get so insecure when it comes to their lips? I really don't understand as a male.
I just think the beauty standards of full lips, big ass, is in right now, and that can definitely change in 10 years again. And that's one of the problems with procedures that don't go away is if you're adding like the fillers and stuff like that, that's really what changes your whole shape of your face. So you'll go in maybe getting some lips done, and doctor's like, hey, I got some extra filler, let me hit your cheekbone, and then you walk out and you got this like crazy looking face. And it's stuck for 12 months. Like,
Right.
that's your face.
I just think about what comedian Bill Burr says. I'm the biggest fanatic of him. And I know he has the famous joke about plastic surgery. He's like, you can either be a 60-year-old woman or you can look like a 35-year-old lizard. What do you want to be? I guess that's your option.
Well, as we know on here, well, I lost my my little final saying.
Well, baby
while
Botox, it kinda
baby
sounds
Botox, while baby Botox might sound harmless, it is a medical procedure, and you
Right.
do not want to go to Groupon to find the best deal. Look,
Right.
spend the cash and go see a qualified doctor. Period.
Right. All right. In an article from Business Insider titled, Millennial Mobsters Are Becoming the Mafia's Downfall by Hillary Hoffer. So look no further than last month's arrest of the alleged leader of New York's Colombo crime family, Andrew Russo. He was arrested for 2 extortion schemes, and the 87-year-old was caught partly because he had stayed in his role for too long and mismanaged younger associates. Former FBI agent Scott Curtis recently told the Wall Street Journal's James Finelli, quote, older millennials complain that millennials who grew up in the suburbs instead of the city streets are softer, dumber, and not as loyal as the mobsters of the past. Plus, they're always texting. And the more I think about this, I would be the worst millennial mobster ever. I mean, I'm always on my phone, scrolling through social media 24/7, and I don't want to live the lifestyle ripping out my battery and then breaking my phone in half because I'm always on the run. I don't know about you, Marissa, but that sounds kind of nutty to me.
Yeah, you would be horrible. I would not put you on my mafia team. Like, I would be an amazing mafia, I have to say.
Okay,
I'd be
explain
amazing
so.
at it. Except my morals are too high. Like, I just can't kill people and like rip off.
Okay, then you're the worst mobster ever. I mean, how could you
But
even...
if I didn't have morals, I would be amazing.
So I don't have morals?
You have morals, but you're also a little.
We're on the
attached to your
same
phone.
level. How
You're
could you-
attached to your phone more than I am.
Okay, I mean, believe it or not, well, if you're in the radio industry like you and I are, I mean, we have to be in the loop 24/7. So if anything that you've learned today, Marissa and I don't go very well with the millennial mobster philosophy, but why go to vocational school or college when you could be a millennial mobster today? I mean, there's just a lot of softer, dumber kids out there, and I know that we will be getting into that later in the show, but despite the mafia's lengthy history, the wheels of change are inescapable, just like the pull that texting has for millennials. Hey, what's good, CCS family? Because our guest returning to the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show, is CEO of Praxis, Cameron Sorsby, joining us live on the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show. How's it going, fam?
Good, Chris. How you doing?
Hey, we're doing real good, my man. And Cameron, let's break the ice. I mean, we were just talking in our hashtag TLDR. We might as well ask you right now at the top of the show.
Off the bat, right away.
Right off the bat. I mean, would you rather see your students go to vocational school or become a millennial mobster? I mean, it seems like, a lot of people think there's options out there.
Millennial mobster sounds like a much cooler career path than vocational school to me.
Does that sound like a lot of a cooler path than what
I
most
think you could
millennials
open up like a branch. You could totally have like, hey, you could either learn about IT and computers, or you can learn about millennial mobster and how to stay out of jail.
Fair enough. I mean, Cameron Sorsby has spoken. But for the listeners who missed your first appearance on the Chris Collins Show, tell us what Praxis is all about. Give us an update, and has anything changed?
Absolutely. So Praxis, it's a one-year apprenticeship program. Simply, we are focused on helping hardworking, ambitious young people start their career strong and, long-term build careers that they love. And the program, our participants, they go through a 3-month professional development boot camp where they kind of start developing and building in-demand valuable skills, discover what kinds of careers they're actually interested in. Then they spend 3 months working with our job placement team to land a really awesome first career opportunity. And then in the first 6 months working full time, they're going through workshops, and they have coaching access. And we have 96% full-time employment at growing businesses all across the country by the time they graduate.
Are you guys starting to see an uptick in enrollment because of this most recent COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh yeah, I look at the past, we're coming up on 19, 20 months now of dealing with COVID, and within the higher education space, it feels like it has just accelerated existing trends probably by a decade. So starting like late spring semester back in 2020, that's where we started to get a lot more interest coming from students that were in college and we're just having a terrible experience as, colleges, we're transitioning to Zoom classes and everything. And I think it woke a lot of people up to wait a second, what am I actually paying for?
Right.
And they just weren't having great experience. So customer experience is declining. The cost of the product of college is increasing or staying the same. And so that really made people question. I think between then and then the first 6 months where it was clear this thing isn't going to go away anytime soon, there's just more and more people seeking college alternatives. When we look just beyond our program itself, which we've probably grown 10-20% just based off of COVID related issues and stuff. When we look at search terms for college alternatives, they've increased by 500% over the past 18 months.
I mean, that's so true, Cameron, because, students throughout the nation are feeling the effects of COVID-19 as the pandemic has seen a rise in homeschooling because of what you just mentioned, remote learning. And what do we need our children to learn to become successful in the 21st century?
I mean, if you're talking about kids, before they enter high school phase, I honestly think the biggest thing parents should be thinking about is how can I get my kid interested in learning itself? And the best way to do that is kind of allow them to have some control and agency over that process. And I think, we have probably 35% of our participants were homeschooled growing up, at least partially. And at 18, 19, 20, they're usually in a much better position to start their careers because they have a sense of, maturity and self-directedness. Whereas people that are really take on the core habits of what it means to be schooled, they're waiting for someone to tell them what to do. And no one's going to tell you how to build, how to start building the life that you want. So the more influence you can give your kids over what they get to study, even if it's just hey, instead of loading them up with extracurriculars after school and your entire schedule is filled up, like let them decide what they want to do a little bit, and they'll kind of build that muscle over time. But the more mature and responsible and someone that's capable of deciding for themselves what they want to spend their time on, the more successful they'll be in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it wasn't just the move from the classrooms to the computer screens that's really changed everything. I mean, it really tested the basic ideas of instruction, attendance testing. That's just a few things I can think of right now. But
Yeah.
are there other things that I'm missing that the pandemic is reshaping education that's on your mind right now, Cameron?
I mean, I think a big trend that was already there over the past decade is the question of, like, within college, does it actually have the long-term benefit of like employment rates, earning potential, et cetera. In 2020, college graduates of 2020, so we're 18, 19 months into this, they are still 45%. 45% of them are still looking for long-term employment opportunities.
Yeah.
So their college is not preparing young people to be successful.
Absolutely not. I can think of a
100%.
few of my own good friends who have engineering degrees but still work
100%.
factory jobs. I mean, I don't understand that. And Cameron, all we've heard in the last 20 years is that the system isn't working and it's very costly, causing student loan debt, and no one is coming up with a solution. So how do we educate the next generation?
I mean, I think it's already happening. I think there are more alternatives every year popping up, both in K through 12 education as well as higher education. But you're coming up against decades of conformity, essentially, where it's like you expect to go to school, you're expected to go to your good public or private school, K through 12, and then that leads to college, et cetera. I think that the biggest thing that needs to happen and continue to happen is just as a family unit, thinking through like what is the best form of education for us, as opposed to approaching everything as like, how are we going to solve education at the societal level? You're not going to have control over that. You can only make decisions for you and your family, and that's how we approach it at Praxis. Like, I care deeply about education, professional development, helping young people start their careers. I can't worry about what is going on at the societal level. I started, a business to work in this area, and it's like, hey, I want Praxis to be the best product possible for our customers, and I want to, grow it long term. So
it is interesting.
It has to start at that individual level.
I don't mean to cut you off, Cameron, but it is interesting that you do say at the societal level, because my next follow-up question to you was, our nation is facing a labor shortage throughout America, and what's going to motivate the next generation to get educated? I mean, it seems like, yeah, go ahead.
I think there's a disconnect between education and success in the real world, not just like career success, but like building the personal and professional life that leads to fulfillment and individual happiness, success, whatever. And I think the average person looks at school, K through 12, college, etc., and they see it as a series of obligations in order to just get a ticket to like being successful as an adult. Like, I have to do those things. I remember in college myself, like, it felt like 80% of my classroom were kids in pajamas hung over from the parties before. Like, you didn't get a sense a lot of people wanted to show up to class every day. And, if that happens on a long enough timeline, like, of course, education's going to be broken, But I think, again, like, there's more access to educational resources and opportunities now more than ever. I think the next step is focusing on outcomes that you're trying to produce. So like at Praxis, like our specific goal is like help you get your career started, land a full-time paid job at a growing business. You have to tie things that people are doing on a day-to-day basis educationally to be like, what is the actual outcome you're trying to produce for yourself.
Right. And Cameron, let's shift gears for a moment, because when it comes to Praxis, I mean, do you think your institution is in a new chapter of education when it comes to students feeling that they're not learning anything during their first 2 years in college?
I mean, I think what we hear all the time from applicants, you know, in the application process, is that the ones that went to college after high school and then now they're dropping out and looking at programs like Praxis, is the first 2 years of college just felt like more like more like high school.
Yeah, right.
But now I'm paying $20,000 to $50,000 a year for that.
Absolutely. And I mean, do you think there's an opportunity to reimagine what schools will look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's happening now. Like, obviously, what we're doing, there's more like skill-based programs popping up. Like, there's coding boot camps and sales boot camps. Most of those are a little bit more geared towards individuals that are already in their career and trying to transition. But I think there's going to be a natural cascading effect where it's like in 10 years from now, it's absolutely going to be common for people to just enter, start living as an adult, and it's going to be like niche training programs, educational programs based on those interests, as opposed to looking at this behemoth of college of, hey, you have to make this 6-figure 4 to 6 year investment up front in order to, even have a possibility of being successful. And we're seeing it in generations. Like when we started Praxis in 2014, there was a lot of skepticism, not just because we're a brand new company back then, but, individuals and parents are just so, they've been told over and over, like, you have to go to college.
Right.
Now we have probably more than half of our like inbound interests are parents of teenagers thinking through like, hey, like I have all that, like as a parent, I've been stuck with student debt for 20 years. I don't want to put my kid in that same position. What other options are out there and stuff? And when I talk to Gen Z, like all of our applicants are Gen Z now, which is crazy to think about. When I see those like birth years of 2003 for the program, it makes me feel extremely old. But they're almost nonchalant about the decision to go to college. They're like, yeah, it just seems expensive and a lot of time. Like, I'd rather just get started now.
Well, maybe they're seeing through the foggy mirror. Like, it's like you referenced. I mean, it's the credentialism. I mean, it's like the last prejudice on our generation. I mean, it's like if you don't get that Willy Wonka golden ticket, you're not going to get a job in life. And is that really the case, Cameron? I mean, does America hate the poorly educated? That's what I'm starting to feel.
I mean, I think they get the definition wrong of what being well-educated versus poorly educated actually is. They focus on those credentials and everything. But I mean, there's opportunities everywhere. Like the companies that we work with in our network that hire our participants, these aren't like podunk small mom and pop businesses in, the middle of nowhere, et cetera. These are, thriving tech companies, growing businesses, et cetera. I've talked to over 500 hiring managers, CEOs at these companies. There's only been 2 times where the conversation stopped because it's, sorry, we don't hire people without college degrees. 2 out of over 500.
Yeah. And on that note, what would you say to first generation students? So you have, and that's what I teach mostly at Cal State LA. So what would you have them, like what message could you give to them if they want to go to a program like Praxis? They looked at the numbers, financially it makes sense. Here's more opportunities. I gravitate to it, but their family who has never been to college and has hung this like golden ribbon on a college degree, what could they say to their parents to help ease their mind?
I mean, now we have the credibility and the reputation of the outcomes we've produced. So like specifically Praxis is an easier sell to make to like your skeptical parents than it used to be, for sure. I think what I've seen like applicants to Praxis do really well is put in the work and do your own research, do your homework, and make the case like if it's important to you to have your family support, with your education decision, show them that you have put in the work and the research and the homework to be like, hey, like I'm breaking down college versus Praxis or college versus something else I would do. Here are the pros and cons to it. I'm treating this decision seriously, as opposed to like the stereotypical impression, young adults can give off of like, oh, I don't want to do all the work that comes with college. I just want to take the easy route to something. Like, I think just
take control of your destiny.
Yeah, taking control. And then frankly, I would tell somebody like ultimately, it's up to your own comfort level and your preference here. But at some point, you're going to have to take control and take responsibility for your own life. And you can't just, have to get your permission, have to have permission from your mom and dad, from your family to do what you want to do. And that can be super tough, especially at that, transition age, 18 to 22, et cetera. But the sooner you can really start treating yourself as an independent adult, the better off you're going to be, and the quicker you're going to get to the point where your family is in a position where it's like, hey, this person's clearly showing a sense of independence and maturity. I know I can back off and not like break down that relationship or something like that.
And Cameron, I did want to kind of switch it to current events that are happening this week, obviously, because we have a moving infrastructure bill that's worth $3.5 trillion, which no one really knows what's in it, but they want to support 2 free years of college. And honestly, being in college and grad school for 8 straight years, I don't know what 2 free years of community college will do for our nation. Truthfully, just like how we spoke, you're taking like 2 years of retaking high school classes all over again. Like, what does that serve for anybody? So why not invest through K through 12 education?
I mean, we spend a bunch of money in K through 12 as well. I don't know if more money is going to be the answer.
I guess the real question that I should be saying to you is, should we, as our nation, reconsider shifting the focus away from college as the end game when it comes to, let's say, high school guidance counselors?
Yeah, I think, so with guidance counselors, it's really cool. We actually, over the last few years, we've seen the trend with guidance counselors of like, they're kind of getting fed up and they're like having moral quandaries over just like pushing college on all of their students. And we've had more guidance counselors reaching out to Praxis and be like, hey, I'm trying to collect as much information on alternatives to college just so I have more options to share with my students. So I think there's some promising signs there. Obviously, like, they're part of the system, and that's, college is what they know, and they're kind of incentivized due to the nature of their job to just like kind of push like they're essentially there to help their students get accepted into college.
Absolutely.
So the fact that there are more and more counselors like seeking alternative options, like I think that's a really promising sign of where we're going socially with like the acceptance of college versus other options and stuff. And then the one point I'll make about community college and it being free, like as an individual making that decision, there's nothing free about spending 2 years of your time on anything. That's, your time is more valuable than, what, the conservative, tuition could be for community college. So keep that in mind. It might be sold to you as like, oh, this is free, this is guaranteed to be a good thing. Like, consider your options, and are you going to be better off 2 years down the road?
Absolutely, Cameron. And, we don't need a Ouija board, to speculate on the future of higher education, as we could see it unfold before our eyes as new education providers outside of higher education, such as Praxis, are shaping how we do business. And with that being said, Harvard University president Lawrence Bacow recently said that higher education will incrementally adapt to changing conditions as it historically has, maintaining its current mission and structure, while meanwhile they are approaching new ideas to tuition pricing. For example, they want to do subscriptions or offering the same program as a traditional institutions at a far lower prices have emerged. I'm already starting to see a smirk on you, Cameron. You're starting to make me laugh already. But what does that say about the future of higher education? Because, we see universities, they're built like palaces, and financiers, have made fortunes in part through a lie. I mean, what's your thoughts on all this?
I mean, you think about typical universities and academic types, historically, they haven't been the types to be like, oh yeah, like college could be better in so many ways. We're working on it. You know, we're trying to be as innovative as possible. They've been more stubborn about like, no, this is a historical institution. It's always good for you, et cetera. So the fact that they're starting to change their talking points to like, of course we're going to innovate and get better with the times. Like, I think that tells you they're starting to feel the pressure.
Yeah, like, what am I supposed to be in like week 8 of the semester? And they're like, hey, we need your monthly subscription payment to still be in the classroom. Like, are you kidding me? Like, do I really need that stress when I'm supposed to be turning in a 10 to 15 page write-up? I mean, it sounds crazy. Hey, Cameron, the reason I mentioned this was because the U.S. Department of Education announced major changes Wednesday to a federal student loan forgiveness program that the agency says could bring relief to more than 550,000 borrowers working in government and nonprofit sectors. But my question to you is this: what solutions should President Joe Biden consider when it comes to fixing student loan forgiveness? Because let me just give you a little bit of a backstory. Now, you might have heard this from high school students and even the Gen Z today, but like, I attended Claremont High School, not too far away from this studio right now, nearly a decade ago, and I never learned once in the classroom about student loan forgiveness and student loan repayment options that I had available to me. And one of the biggest takeaways that I get, that I love Ben Shapiro's point, because he always says there's transparency and education is essential. And why are we lending out loans to students who clearly can't pay their loans when themselves, including their parents' adjusted gross income, doesn't suffice? I mean, what? It's crazy.
It's crazy because on one side you hear, college graduates have, they earn over $1 million more throughout the lifetime of their career than non-college graduates. It's a no-brainer financial decision. And then on the other end, we're having this huge conversation about student debt relief because, college graduates can't pay off their debt because they're not making enough money.
Right.
Like those two things don't add up. As far as policy, I would say stop subsidizing these student loans and allow colleges to compete in the free market with all of these more innovative alternatives popping up.
Right.
They're being sheltered, they're being protected through the government. And it's this, because you can get a student loan, you can't, as an 18-year-old, you go to a bank and ask for a $50,000 loan to start a business. They're going to be laughed out of the bank.
Right.
Whereas colleges, like, no one bats an eye when you invest, 6 figures into a college education. So it's got to stop at the source rather than, putting Band-Aids through, student debt relief.
And there's also that point as well, like, what you guys always push forward, and that's why I love having Praxis on. I think you guys are a godsend to this generation, because we really need alternative options, and I'm glad that you are the man in charge to make this happen. But, you're talking about that career, and, we're always talking about, we were just joking like 5 minutes ago, we all know peers that have college degrees who aren't making anything happen. And why isn't that being implemented, let's say, in the classroom? Because every high school and college has a career center, but I would bet my life savings that a majority of the students don't visit these facilities. So this is like wasted money. How do we fix this problem in these palaces that we call universities?
Frankly, like, if you're relying on an academic institution to help you figure out how to build your career and land jobs, like in the business world, in the professional world, you're not going to have a great time. And the sooner you realize, like, I wouldn't go to, like, I know, like, those buildings have career center. I wouldn't step foot in that. I would seek out advice and mentorship from successful professionals that I want to replicate myself.
So you're basically saying the career centers that are happening on colleges are just not happening, and they're not working. And why, even though we only have like 15 seconds.
Oh man, fire of money.
Right. And man, I wish I had way more time with you, Cameron. I could be talking with you for another 25 minutes, but I do want to do my due diligence because I know there's a listener out there that might be curious about what Praxis is all about and how can they find you online and where can they follow you on social media to get even more detail about enrolling into Praxis.
So the website is discoverpraxis.com. You can start an application or download our program guide or schedule a call with a rep to learn more. And you can follow Discover Praxis on Instagram. That's the best place.
Cameron Sorsby,
Awesome.
you are amazing, my man. And, much success. And like I said, you guys are a godsend to this nation. Much success moving forward. And thank you again for returning to the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show.
Thanks Cameron.
Chris.
Ciao.
Thanks, Marissa.
All right. Peace out. Yeah, that's what's good, listeners. This is Off the Fret, and today Marissa and I will be giving you the inside scoop happening in the music industry. Yeah, that was kind of weird. It was just a slip of the tongue. But hey, this is Off the Fret. But, while we're in the music segment, I might as well remind everybody that we got a brand new podcast series called Off the Fret, featuring the Blowies as our inaugural guest. More music talk, out now wherever you listen to podcasts. And let's get right on into our first topic because crossover legends Suicidal Tendencies were recently locked out of their verified Instagram account for several weeks for a result of their band name. Having now regained control of their account, the group issued the following statement on Thursday, quote, "So as a lot of you already noticed, our Instagram account was down for the last 3 weeks. Long story. This had nothing to do with us." Well, it kind of did, but everything to do with our name. Smiley face. So is this Facebook's and Instagram's idea of combating anxiety and depression for teenage girls? I really can't tell anymore, Marissa. I mean, even, I know this doesn't even fall with this social media company, but I do have to let the listening audience know because this is kind of funny. Yesterday, everybody who watched our last Friday show, we talked about on our TLDR, talking about these ex-Mormons creating these sex trends on TikTok. We invited the conversation on our show, and then we posted it to TikTok. They muted us. I mean, is this their idea of combating these anxiety and depression schemes?
Well,
I mean,
it just shows it's an algorithm. It's not anybody kind of looking it over. It's just certain trigger words are hitting it, and it's automatically pulling it off. So they're doing like a blanket, trying to figure out to combat it, which doesn't really work because our language uses same words in different contexts. And so they're not looking at the context of what they're being used. And I grew up on Suicidal Tendencies, and I definitely was a teenager with angst. And I think I even went into my 20s and 30s with angst. So I don't think that ever stopped. Their music allowed me to see that someone else also felt like they didn't fit in. Like, I want to have a Pepsi, Mommy's Little Monster. I mean, that song specifically, I was like, oh my God, that's
But I guess the problem is the Facebook's algorithm is not going to be taking the time to listen to Suicidal Tendencies music. But I mean, it is funny that you said that the algorithm is picking up on keyword searches because I guess Suicide Silence, the heavy metal giants, they're going to get flagged next because of suicide. Woo! It's the boogeyman word. It's like saying Candyman 5 times. I guess the guy's going to come and kill me at night. I guess if I say suicide 5 times, let's not test it, okay, fam? But you get my point. But I guess the only thing that I would say that would qualify for a deactivation is, Suicide Tendencies, they have a habit of always wearing their band merch in every freaking photo that they do. I would say that deserves deactivation.
No way. What are you talking about? You
That's
always
kind of weird.
No, first off, self-promotion, all about it. We even have our own shirts. Second off,
what Chris Newhart did last week, showing us his guitar tattoo, that That's self-promotion. Okay, that's how you start a rock band. But when you're wearing your own band merch, come on.
Dude, I love it. I love when I go to a show and you can always tell a Suicidal fan. You're like, they look the same, like, and they've been looking the same since the like late 80s, early 90s. Like, I don't know. I find it quite I find it fun. Oh my gosh,
I feel you, Marissa. And I guess, all I can say is, social media, my goodness, the world is full of a bunch of pussies. That's all I could say. I mean, it's so crazy how we get triggered that quickly. But Marissa, let's show the CCS family what's good by playing the Blowies. That's our inaugural guest on Off the Fret. And we're going to show you their music video, AK, live on the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show.
I need an AK to feel like a man. I need an AK to know who I am. The kids at school, they don't understand. I need an AK to feel like a man. I need an AK. Oh, I need an AK. Oh, I need an AK. I need an AK. I need a gun to make me feel safe. I need a gun just in case. So I pray to the NRA so the Dems don't take my guns away. Oh, I need an AK. I need an AK. That's right, I need an AK. Oh, I need an AK. I need an Uzi to defend my flag. 'Cause I'm goddamn right and I'm goddamn mad. And no opinion trumps the one I have. Plus my Bible group says I gotta prove I ain't no fag. I need an AK. Oh, I need an AK. Yeah, I need an AK. I need an AK. I need an AK. That's right, that's right, that's right. All the guns and control. A gun in hand, I don't feel so small. I swear I got the biggest of all, it's true. That's right. I need an AK to feel like a man. I need an AK to know who I am. The kids at school, they don't understand. I need an AK to feel like a man. I need an AK. I need an AK. I need an AK. I need an AK. I gotta do something that's right.
Yeah, that's what's good. That's the Blowies, and that's their song AK. And I just love that bass line going into the last chorus. That is so sexy. So good. So good
I
every
love
time.
them. I really do. They're a top band for me.
They really
love
are.
the
They
Blowies.
deserve way more credit than they deserve. And I know that they're in the works right now for a second album. So when it comes to that time, bet your ass will get the Blowies back on and talk about all their brand new music. But I do want to remind the listening audience, you are listening to Off the Fret, where we break down all the latest news happening around the music industry. And get this, in August, Spencer Eldon, who was photographed naked on the Nirvana's Nevermind album cover as a baby, sued the band, alleging that he was sexually exploited as a minor. So Dave Grohl has spoken out over the weekend to the Sunday Times, hinting that there are plans to alter the album cover ahead of its forthcoming 30th anniversary show. And with that being said, I do have this image that comes into mind that I start to question a little bit. Is this you, Spencer Eldon? I mean, in 2016, recreating that iconic album cover that you're supposedly suing 25 years later? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, the funny thing is, the more and more you look up Spencer Eldon every single day, you just find more things that he's going to fail in court about. Because I have a quote here from the New York Post when they interviewed Spencer Eldon for this photo shoot, and he said, quote, "I said to the photographer, let's do it naked, but he thought that would be weird, so I wore my swim shorts." Okay, we just had to have a moment of pause because This is ridiculous. And you know what the crazy part is? Eldon did the same thing 10 years ago to celebrate the 15th year anniversary after the 25th. So what's changed now, Marissa? I don't understand.
His bank account.
His bank account.
He's broke. He's broke, and he's like, hey, here's some easy money. Everybody's going after pedophiles. Everybody's going off for exploitation of children. I was exploited. I didn't give permission because I was a baby, and all those years that I capitalized on being on the cover. Now that I'm not, now there's damages. Pay me.
If anything, why are you suing the bands and the record labels when you really should, if you wanted to, I'm not saying to do it, but you should be suing your parents. Because your parents...
Because they don't have any money. That's why he has to sue the record labels. They have money.
They didn't sign any legal documents, supposedly.
No, he's hoping to get a payout settlement. So when you go into sue, you don't actually have to win. They can actually settle out of court, give you $20,000 to shut up, go away, sign off, never sue me again. And that's probably what some attorney told him, and that's what he's going for. What he doesn't realize, the attorney's going to take most of that money after legal fees too. On top of that, he's going to walk away with probably like 5 G's.
He's probably got a few of those copies of the original copy of Nevermind, and now the value is only going to tick up just because Dave Grohl now is going to alter the 30th anniversary cover. So maybe this is just a scheme after all to get him more money outside of the courtroom and more money into his wallet, you know, doing his thing. But, you know, the sad reality is, well, actually, it's not sad. I mean, it probably is a good thing moving forward. You're probably not going to see any more baby photos like this moving forward from any artist. Just saying. I mean, this is not going to happen ever again. But shifting gears, we are excited to announce our next guest artist joining us for our music podcast series on Off the Fret. More music talk from Southampton, UK. We got the one and only Royals that will be joining us. So keep a lookout when we go to release that episode later at the end of this month. But Marissa, let's let the CCS family know what's good. If you don't know what Royals is, you're going to know them now. This is their music video, Gone, live on the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show.
How many times will you do me wrong before I leave you gone, gone, gone? I'm better off alone. Can you look me in the eyes and tell me that you really tried? I see your heart's not in this like mine. Now I'm left here all alone. I feel so lost. Now I've got these monsters in my head. They just won't go away. They keep me up at night with no escape. And I bet you never even realize I'll see right through your lies. How many times will you do me wrong before I leave you gone, gone, gone? Words were left unspoken, promises were broken. Now you're just gone, gone, gone. And I'm better off alone. You said you had my back till dark, so I must be dead. You made your bed, so sleep in it. You got me running round in circles, wishing I could get out, but I don't know how. And as the silence gets loud and the pressure keeps on building, the voice inside my head is asking, what should I believe in? My mind is racing, the fire is burning out. 200 hours on repeat, my head's still
Yeah, that's what's good. That is Royals, and that's their music video, Gone, off their EP, A Spark to Ignite. And we're excited to be talking with the entire band. And what I can say is they have informed me that they have brand new music in the work, and we will be discussing that brand new song when it comes to our new podcast series episode with the Royals on Off the Fret. More music talk. And all right, you guys are listening to us right now. This is Off the Fret, where we give you guys the inside scoop that's happening around the music industry. And get this, Olivia Rodrigo has officially spoken out about drawing inspiration from other artists' work, touching on adding extra songwriting credits to tracks on her debut album, Sour, months after the record's release. So anybody who's not informed about what's going on, in July, Taylor Swift, Jack Antonoff, and St. Vincent were given songwriting credits for Rodrigo's song Deja Vu, and then in the following months, Paramore's Hayley Williams and the former guitarist for the band received credits on Rodrigo's single Good For You after similarities were pointed out between the song and Paramore's 2007 hit Misery Business. But Olivia Rodrigo has responded to the critics saying, quote, "Every single artist is inspired by artists who have come before them. It's soft. I said soft. It's sort of a fun, beautiful sharing process. Nothing in music is ever new. There's 4 chords in every song, and that's the fun part, trying to make that your own." And this is what I loved, Marissa. I mean, even people on Twitter called out to Elvis Costello, and they were like, "Hey man, did you know that like there's similarities with the opener to Sour? The track's called Brutal, and it reminds me of your classic hit, Costello, Pump It Up." And I loved Costello's response back to this Twitter user. And he said, quote, "It's how rock and roll works. You take the broken pieces of another thrill and make a brand new toy. That's what I did with Pump It Up, inspired by Bob Dylan's Subterranean Homesick Blues and Chuck Berry's Too Much Monkey Business." And I gotta say, my favorite punk band of all times, anybody who knows me really, really well, you would know that Pennywise is my favorite punk band of all times. They are a 4-chord punk band, bar chord. That's all they do. And
like all punk bands.
Punk band.
Much.
And there's times when you can listen to their 11 and 12 albums and you go, gosh, doesn't that sound like a song that they've already written? Because that's how music works.
And here's the thing. If you're being inspired, because all music is inspired, that's how we grow, that's how genres change, then that's one thing. But if you're taking something and look at Vanilla Ice and David Bowie, like he just like literally took it, added one extra little cymbal beat and tried to use that same argument. Oh, right. I'm being inspired, I grow. And the courts are like, dude, way too similar. So as long as, just like my kid's pounding on the door.
I was just going to say, she goes, I don't agree with you.
Hold on, 3 minutes, homie, 3 minutes.
Hey, that's what you,
millennial parenting at its best. But no, as long as that you can say, look, it's just like an artist. You can copy a painting as long as you have your own stamp on it. You're not trying to take so much and you're not having it, it's legal. And that's okay. Right. And that's how we grow. It's that if you're trying to be on the slide with it, then pay those royalties.
But it's just so strange that a woman like Olivia Rodrigo even has to give even a percentage of her music to these artists who essentially really had nothing to do with the creation of this music, when all you know in the hip-hop world, these music producers, they're so good at what they do, and they'll turn like 1960s classics, let's say the Temptations, and then they'll turn it into some iconic track, but you wouldn't know it's because they're looping it, they're dubbing it, maybe they put the EQ low so it sounds like this, and then all of a sudden when they change it back to its normal stance, you're going, I had no idea that this was the famous track.
And that's the thing, is you had no idea. So what happens is a lot of artists will do this. They'll make a song and they'll go, hey, look, if it blows up, I'll pay the royalties if they say anything. And what happens is they came in, they said, hey, look, you took our stuff without our permission. We want the money. They have enough attorneys on it to look at it saying, look, you're going to lose. So just pay them. It'll save you money in the long run.
Absolutely. And, it's a lot of crazy things going out there in this world. I hope that this is not an ongoing trend that keeps happening with young up-and-coming artists, because how in the world is anybody going to be successful nowadays if this is going to continue to thrive each and every day. But this is Off the Fret, where we give you guys the inside scoop happening around in the music industry. And also, I just want to remind everybody out there, we do have a brand new podcast episode out now that's called Off the Fret with our inaugural guest, The Blowies. We talk all things music and more talk, baby. It's amazing. But we still have more left on the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show. All right, this is what's good because there's just so much negativity on channels 2 through 11. So Marissa and I, we like to break the mold. And what is a tough task even for the most experienced climbers, double amputee Rustam Nabiv. I hope I pronounced your name, brother. But you know what? You did something so amazing that I don't even think Marissa can do it, fam. Sorry to throw you under the bus because if I can't do it, I'm pretty sure you can't do it either. But let's just say
Okay, I now need to try. Ready?
But he's
Rustam Nabiv. Booyah!
Booyah! You know what? That's why we have an amazing co-host like Marissa Pitts. I think that's actually sounds exactly how his name should be read off. But anyways, he successfully summited the 8th highest mountain in the world. So the 28-year-old Russian used his hands to pull himself up the summit of Mount Mansula, which is standing 8,163 meters. And this is the first time a double amputee has successfully climbed Nepal. And we have footage of this amazing feat. So, Marissa, when you got the clip, let's roll it for the CCS family. It's just really, really incredible. I'm just when I see that, I almost want to watch it another time because like I can only imagine when you're like your lower body half is touching that snow, all the pressure that happens at you like with your body temperature. Because even when I was reading up on this mountain, there was a Canadian that was like 37 years old, obviously full body individual, and he died on that same mountain trying to climb it. So this guy has no legs. And, you know, I just got to give a huge shout out to that team because I can't imagine, you know, it's a really, truly is a group effort from everybody to make this happen. And I think that is so, so cool. And this is a fun fact for everybody out there because this is the first time mountaineers have scaled Mount Mansula in the autumn season in the last 45 years. The last time they did that was in 1976. I don't know why in the autumn time it's even harder. I'm guessing because, you know, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to even speculate, but the footage speaks volumes. And I find that so cool because no body parts doesn't matter. If you make up your mind, then nothing is impossible. And I think that is such a beautiful message that everybody should carry out throughout the weekend. But also, we want to give a huge shout out again to our amazing Just Talking guest, Cameron Sorsby. He is the CEO of Praxis, a college alternative that leads to a full-time job. So if you're on the fence and you're not sure where you're going to go in life, there are alternatives for you. So take advantage. Check out discoverpraxis.com today. And also, we're excited because we got an amazing
Who is next week's
guest.
guest?
We're going to be celebrating with Chloe Wilder. She's returning to the show to highlight some brand new music coming her way. She's an amazing, young, up-and-coming talent that, you know, she sweeps Billie Eilish. I'm just going to say that. She sweeps Billie Eilish, you know, under her feet. I love Chloe Wilder, and her last jam was so good, and I cannot wait to share with you guys this new music because it's so freaking good. And also don't forget to check out our brand new music podcast series, Off the Fret, featuring the Blowies as our inaugural guest. more music talk. And if you like what you're listening to, go to thechriscollinsshow.com and become a member today and get that free CCS t-shirt. For now, Marissa, I just want to have some fun with you because we got a minute left. The big old heavyweight fight's happening tomorrow night. Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. This is the trilogy fight. Who do you think's going to win and what round? I'm going with Deontay Wilder, 8th round knockout. He's going to get Tyson Fury this time. What do you think?
Fury, and I think it's going to go all the way. No knockout.
All the way by decision. You heard it from ourselves, and then let's go Dodgers, baby. But for now, we will see you guys next week. Enjoy the weekend, fam. Peace. The Chris Collins Show presents Music Storm 2021, hosted by Chris Collins and Marissa Pitts, featuring Tiana Kutcher, Some Daggers Wear Red, Desmond Walker, Doulos, Saturn Till June, YT Will,
it feels good to be the bad guy. Walk these shoes, you'll see why. Look at things from both sides, ain't nothing like the
EC Main,
one thug, Lord, show a little mercy on one thug.
The Phoenix Within,
There's more weight in my words than you give me.
Chloe Wilder, Jonas and I,
burn bright enough to ignite the aurora down.
Kane, and Animal Sun.
So tell me how do you see reasons to carry on?
Music Storm 2021, available on YouTube Live. Peace. Our brand new podcast, Off the Fret.
I love it. It's more time to chat. Hello.
You would look
Can you
so
hear me?
jazzy.
I love your outfit.
How far would you go to start playing live music again?
This slaps harder than my ex when she got her stimulus check. So, are you here to bring the sexual healing with your music? Called Everything is Everything, and I guarantee you're going to hear this song in the future. I love the flow, man. Politically charged album. So, if you get easily offended, this might not be the album for you. Brand new podcast, Off the Fret.
So excited.
Has Kim Kardashian accidentally sent you a coochie shot?
Do you want to stay there? It's completely your choice. Or you want to...
I feel you. And you know what I love? Off the Fret. More music talk. Peace.